problem there is, and also Syria. Syria, where we don't know what direction it's going. So each of these countries is a little bit different.
Do you have a model when you go back in history for a good transition that you would apply to some of these countries? You would maybe advise them?
Well, I think each one is a little bit different. And there are a lot of people that look at what happened in Central and Eastern Europe as whether they're models or not. And I think to some extent they are, though I would argue that the situation was quite different in the following way. Some of the countries had a democratic tradition of some kind earlier. And what was really different was that all of them during the 80s and 90s wanted help from the West. That was one of the hallmarks of them. They wanted the support. They wanted to be part of a new Europe that was whole and free. It is unclear whether the Arab countries want help from the West. Again, one of the reasons I love to travel and go to various meetings or do business is you actually learn something. And in the discussions in Jordan, there were people still talking about the fact that the decisions made by Britain and France in 1923 were responsible for their problems. So they see themselves still as marred by colonialism, and therefore asking for help from the West is not exactly part of it. But I think there are various parts of the transitions that took place in Central and Eastern Europe that are models. But the other part that even happened there was post-euphoria, where people, you had to figure out what the new social contract was going to be, and whether the people that had been in the communist parties before all of a sudden were the beneficiaries of the privatization. So there's more kind of looking at mistakes not to be made and trying to put various transitions together. One transition that's worth looking at is what happened in Chile after Pinochet. So that there are different pieces of models that can be useful.
Might there be some new alliances that we haven't seen before?
Well, I think that what is new is a more regional power in the Middle East. I mean, it's interesting to see what the Arab League is doing. What is very interesting is looking at the growth of Turkey. Turkey is playing an entirely kind of more assertive role within the region. It is able to be, it doesn't like to be called a model, but a model for secular Islamic democratic country. And it has enough strength at the moment to kind of try to influence in a variety of ways. So I think that's possible. I think there are questions about whether there's a new kind of Mediterranean regional grouping and what the relationships are there. People do not know. They're two big kind of loose cannons, if one might put it that way, of Iran and Syria at the moment. And I would say, and I'm sure that people will disagree with this, is that in many ways Iran benefited the most from the war in Iraq. It is reaching out. The only hope is that they're all arguing among themselves at the moment, but Iran's influence is very big. And what it does in terms of support of Hamas and Hezbollah and other groupings is an issue. And Syria, whether there was a time that we thought we should separate Syria from Iran, work with Syria to be helpful on the Middle East peace process. Now with Syria in complete uproar, we don't know it. But I, you know, as a professor and a former diplomat, I love to act as if, or talk about structures and how the system works and, you know, who is whose friend and how the alliances work. At the moment, everything is up for grabs. It's a very peculiar time. And I hate to say this, but I am a child of the Cold War. It clearly was dangerous and complicated, but I think in many ways what we're going through now is equally dangerous in a completely different way, because there is a question about nation states, who is aligned with whom, and a whole new phenomenon which are non-state actors. And this course that I teach on the National Security Toolbox, the tools are designed to create leverage against leaders who have something to lose. They control territory, and they are supposed to improve the lives of the people that they either represent or control. If somebody is like a non-state actor and has no skin in the game, it's hard to figure out what the leverage points on them are. And so that's the problem.
I'm going to throw out one last question. In your toolbox, is there anything or any direction on global or international institutions and their efficacy in the long run? You listed a couple like the IMF and the UN. It just seems like the world is so different. Those were all built so long ago. And for people like us in this room who depend on, you know, a lot of it, we want the most stable economic and financial models there can be. What do you think the future of those institutions are? Do you have a new idea?
Well, I think that on some of the financial institutions, they, and there are various studies in terms of the way the world bank is restructuring itself. The IMF, people are talking about kind of changes in some of the leadership of it and a greater recognition of the role of emerging markets. I think that an awful lot depends on the capability of people to be flexible within the institutions that exist and be inventive in a way. But I think that one of the things that's out there that needs to be developed more, something that I mentioned in my remarks, are the public-private partnerships, where in fact there is a synergy between what some of the private sector is learning and how it has to operate and how it works within the public sector. So what is kind of interesting is I have maintained this for a long time, and actually I said this in the 80s, that international organizations should have major corporations sitting at the table. That I always hesitate to mention a country, but pick, you know, some island in the Pacific has a seat in the United Nations. I would think that Coca-Cola or some huge corporation has more impact on the life of people in a particular country than a single country that has a vote. And the question is how to bring the corporate life and non-governmental organizations, NGOs and foundations, into the system so that they can, in fact, have more of a relationship with people on the ground. I will just mention one other thing I'm doing because it's part of what semi-response to what you're saying, plus it allows me to talk about it, is Secretary Clinton asked me to head something called Partners for a New Beginning, which was based on President Obama's speech in Cairo about having different relationships with Muslim-majority communities and countries. And so she asked me to run this, and then we have, it's a way of mixing public-private. So the mandate is to do something about economic empowerment, science and technology,